Okay, guys, we're covering Review 3 for the SOL here, American Wars, Major Battles, Key Generals. What's going on in this painting? Okay, explain. Lee is doing what? Surrendering to Grant, very good. This is the end of what war? The Civil War, good job. Nice job, it is at Appomattox Courthouse, well done. Good. So Lee is seated here. Grant is seated here. This is the surrender in Wilbur McLean's parlor room at Appomattox Courthouse. No, not yet. All right, we'll get there. All right, American War in the 1700s. What war was fought between 1754 and 1763 that put the French and their Indian allies against the British and the American colonists? It's also known as the 7 Years' War. Okay, I got two answers out there. I got French and Indian and Revolutionary. What do we think? I'm hearing more French and Indian out there, and you all are right. It is the French and Indian War. Remember that it was fought over profitable land and fur trade in the Ohio River Valley. It starts at Fort Duquesne, present-day Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and fought throughout the Ohio River Valley and in the Appalachian region. It ends in Quebec on the Plains of Abraham. And that's another Treaty of Paris, or a Treaty of Paris that ends, not the main Treaty of Paris we need to focus on. Remember, that's the British and the colonists versus the French and their Native American allies. American War in the 1700s. What war was fought for American independence from Great Britain from 1775 to 1781? Hint, the British are coming. Good job. That's the Revolutionary War. Our first shots, 1775, Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. Paul Revere and William Dawes probably said the regulars are coming or the redcoats are coming. They probably did not say the British are coming, but it has sort of been seared into our brains. Don't forget about the Minutemen. That's the militia force in Massachusetts. Turning point, 1777. Saratoga, New York, because France will become our ally after John Burgoyne's army is defeated. The Treaty of Alliance was signed in 1778, thanks to Benjamin Franklin, who was our diplomat to France. And then we have the surrender in 1781 at Yorktown. General Lord Cornwallis will surrender to Washington. It's not entirely true, though. They do have surrender terms toward one another, but it's more that their aides will surrender to one another. And then there's the Treaty of Paris you need to know. That will end the war in 1783. Y'all got a question down there? No? Good. All right, moving right along. So here we have the surrender at Yorktown. Here we have the image of the Treaty of Paris. American wars in the 1800s. What war was fought between the United States and Great Britain over the issue of impressment of sailors, freedom of the sea, and a land dispute over the Oregon Territory? Hint, President James Madison declared war. Rockets' red glare, bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. That is when the our national anthem is written during the battle at Fort McHenry. And note that the Hartford Convention at the end of this war led to the collapse of the Federalist Party because New England Federalists threatened to secede or break away from the U.S. over shipping rights and international trade. What war are we looking at? War of what? Speak up. 1812. Good job. The War of 1812. I want everybody to look up here at the board or at the screen. No, they are not. What are they supposed to be? Nope. Nope. Another S word. Sailors. Very good. They are being kidnapped or impressed into British service. Yeah, that was part of the reason for the War of 1812. Basically, the British would kidnap American sailors and say, "You're working for us now, don't worry, we're going to end up winning the war." What war was fought between the American settlers in Texas against the Mexican army under the leadership of Santa Anna in 1836? Note, they defeated the Mexican army, became the Lone Star Republic for 9 years, and later entered the United States as a slave state in 1845. Remember the Alamo. Nope. Texas Revolution, what is that an image of? The Alamo, very good. Remember the Alamo, the Texas Revolution. Also, if we look over on the wall, that flag, that was their battle flag. The Lone Star, the cannon, and the words, "Come and take it," challenging the Mexican army to take their cannon at Gonzales. What war was fought between the United States and Mexico from 1846 to 1848 for America to gain California, New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, and Nevada to achieve manifest destiny? Hint, the United States claimed that Mexico had invaded Texas. Mexico claimed that the United States invaded Texas. This was disputed territory near the Rio Grande. Nope. We're not there yet. Mexican War, very good. Mexican War, 1846 to 1848. Here we have an image of the Battle of Mexico City. For any of you Marine Corps future Marines or family members of Marines, that's where the verse Halls of Montezuma come from in the Marine Corps hymn. Amphibious assault led by General Winfield Scott with U.S. Army and Marines at Mexico City. All right, American War in the 1800s. What war was fought between the United States Union and the Confederacy rebels from 1861 to 1865? Hint, the Union will win the war, slaves will gain freedom, and the country will be reunited during the era of Reconstruction. Civil, good job. The American Civil War. First shots, 1861, April of 1861 at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, where Confederates attacked the Union fort. Turning point, 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg, where Lee's Confederate Army will retreat back south. And then the surrender, 1865, which we saw on the first slide, Appomattox Courthouse, where Robert E. Lee, Confederate, surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant, Union. American wars in the 1800s. What war did the United States win against the Spanish in Cuba and the Philippines in 1898? This was a very quick 6-month war. Hint, the United States will annex or gain Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines as territory as a result of this war. Y'all said it earlier. Yes, very good. Spanish-American War. Remember the Maine. To hell with who? To hell with me. I wasn't around in 1898. This was the battle cry. The USS Maine sunk in Havana Harbor. Remember the Maine? To hell with Spain was the battle cry. Who are we looking at on the right here? The Rough Riders, led by what guy in the middle? Teddy Roosevelt. Very good. American War 1900s. What war did the United States join on the Allied side, the Triple Entente, in 1917 to fight against Germany and Austria-Hungary? Hence, the sinking of the Lusitania helped pull us into this war. Woodrow Wilson wanted to make the world safe for democracy. Yes, World War I. The war started, though, with the assassination of which? Yes, good job. By the Black Hand. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a member of the Black Hand. They're from Austria-Hungary, but the Black Hand, you are correct, was from Serbia. Well done. Here we have a U.S. soldier in World War I. They called him the Doughboys. American War, 1900s. What war did the United States join after the Japanese bombed the naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7th, 1941? Remember that this war started in Europe when Hitler invaded Poland in 1939. It is WW2. What ship is being sunk here at Lusitania's World War I? What ship is being sunk here at Pearl Harbor? And now it is the monument. Good job over there. The USS Arizona. It is the monument at Pearl Harbor. Well done. What 45-year-long war did the United States fight in against the Soviet Union, USSR? Remember, this was a war fought out of fear of the spread of communism and fear of nuclear war. The USSR and the Berlin Wall collapsed at the end of this war. The Cold War, very good. Here we have Kennedy and Khrushchev arm wrestling over what main fear and issue that occurred during the Cold War, 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis, fantastic. What war did the American Wars, 1900s. What war did the United States lead in a United Nations military action or a UN action to prevent North Korea from spreading communism to South Korea between 1950 and 1953? Remember that the war ended in a ceasefire armistice along the 38-degree parallel latitude line, DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone. That is the Korean War. Good job, guys. 1950 to 1953. There you see a convoy traveling across the 38th-degree parallel. American War, 1900s. What war did the United States become involved in to prevent communism from spreading from North Vietnam to South Vietnam? Remember that the U.S. sent troops starting under JFK, intensified under Lyndon B. Johnson, and they were removed under Nixon. He attempted Vietnamization. U.S. was unable to prevent communism from spreading, and Saigon, renamed Ho Chi Minh City, fell to North Vietnam in 1975. I heard you guys say it. What is it again? Good job. The war in Vietnam. So American involvement from 1961 to 1975. Troops are out of there in 72. Bombing continues. What image are we looking at here? Good job. The fall of Saigon, escaping the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam. Very good. No, that's what's happening. They're just bringing in choppers to take people out of there. American Wars, 1900s. What war did the United States lead in another United Nations or UN military action to stop Iraq under the leadership of Saddam Hussein from invading Kuwait along the Persian Gulf? Remember that this is also known as Operation Desert Storm, and this was the first war in which U.S. women could serve in combat. Persian Gulf. Good job. Way back. Yes. Persian Gulf War. And you can see here, Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf, the general in charge of UN troops, American troops in the war. American Wars, 2000s. What war did the United States enter following the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon on September 11, 2001? These attacks were led by Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. The attacks also lead to the passage of the Patriot Act. Afghanistan, good job. War in Afghanistan. Here we have a group of infantry on patrol. The war started in 2001. Now, what war did the United States enter as a result of genocide and the belief that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and was aiding terrorist organizations? Note, like the war in Afghanistan, President George W. Bush made this declaration of war with the consent of Congress. War in Iraq, very good. Again, a soldier on patrol in the war in Iraq started in 2003. Major battles and generals. Who are we looking at here? Eisenhower. Who's he talking to? Good job. He's talking to the 101st Airborne. Why is he addressing these guys? Very good. They're about to invade Normandy. In fact, in this image, he is talking to one of these soldiers about fly fishing. Pretty iconic photo, trying to show support for these men before they try to liberate Europe, which they will on June 6, 1944, Day of Days, Operation Overlord. Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1781. General George Washington, seen here on the right, crossing the Delaware. Lexington and Concord, first shots fired. This was a small battle or a skirmish. Saratoga, turning point, because France will become our ally, thanks to Ben Franklin. And then Yorktown, surrender of Cornwallis, the British Army, to Washington's Continental Army. American Civil War, 1861 to 65. General Ulysses S. Grant, Union, and Robert E. Lee, Confederate, your main generals. Remember that they were not the presidents during the war. The presidents of either side, Lincoln for the Union and Jefferson Davis for the Confederacy. That's a quite that we mix that up sometimes. We're fast to say, oh, Lee was president of the Confederacy. He was not. And Grant won't become president of the United States till after the war. Fort Sumter, first shots of the war in South Carolina. Antietam in Maryland, Sharpsburg, Maryland, bloody a single day that led to the Emancipation Proclamation. Here we have an image of that battle. If you see this bridge, Burnside's Bridge, across Antietam Creek, that's the final engagement of the Battle of Antietam. 23,000 missing, killed, and wounded on both sides in one single day. Gettysburg, turning point of the war, and then Appomattox, Lee surrenders to Grant. World War II, 1941, 1945. I put American dates up here. The war did begin in 1935, but I put our involvement. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, commander for D-Day. Battles in Europe that you need to know. Battle of Britain, where the British defeat the Nazi Blitzkrieg. Here we have a spotter that is looking for Nazi aircraft from the Luftwaffe. Stalingrad was the Soviet defeat of the Nazis and the turning point in the Eastern Front to push the Nazis back toward Berlin. Stalingrad was a months-long siege that lied on the Volga River. Brutal fighting from house to house. Normandy, Allied invasion of France on D-Day to defeat the Nazis and liberate Western Europe from Hitler. But remember, the Allies are going to continue to fight on for another 11 months before Berlin will fall in May. And then World War II continued in the Pacific. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the site where the Japanese attacked to bring America into the war on December 7th, 1941, day that will live in infamy. FDR. Here we have another image of the USS Arizona. Midway, turning point of the war in the Pacific, because the United States sunk 4 Japanese carriers, held the island to prevent another attack on Pearl Harbor. They also broke the Japanese code. Iwo Jima and Okinawa were islands that the United States took from Japan in 1945, getting America closer to Japan than they had ever been, but with thousands of casualties, loss of U.S. soldiers. Here we have the raising of the flag of American soldiers on Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima. That's a tremendously important image from the war. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the 2 cities that the atomic bombs were dropped on by the United States. President Harry S. Truman made the call. And then the turning point in North Africa in 1942-43, in Egypt, the Battle of El Alamein was the turning point in North Africa because the British prevent the Nazis under the leadership of Erwin Rommel from gaining control of the Suez Canal, Middle Eastern oil fields, and southern access to the Soviet Union. The British commander here was Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery. Question? 1 minute. All right. You guys got any other questions? All right. Good deal.